All right, so today we're going to be going over, I know it's a day before and this is not in my build guide video because I think it warrants a second video so people have a full understanding as to not only the team you want to be running ideally with Silver Wolf 9s, and I will be making one for Evanesia as well, but in order to understand the certain benchmarks, not only for SW9s herself, but also the entirety of the team, so you can reach those benchmarks in order to reach optimal vertical investment capabilities to further boost the overall damage of not only SW9s, but also just the team in general. So you can see here that I do have characters in light cone options, and then we'll go ahead and discuss where the vertical investments are going to be taking place. Now keep in mind we're going to be looking at a team mainly consisting of these 4 characters. I have the Elation MC right here too, because currently at this point in the game, these are only real Elation characters we have to quote unquote do something with SW9s, and the Elation MC could be a alternative, not a great one, keep in mind, but an alternative nonetheless. So that is taking him away. So starting off, what is going to be the absolute best main priority aspect that you want to be looking at? Well, that's going to be a Yao Guang E1. And what this is going to do, if we can actually get it loading in right here. So what this is going to do is that it's going to state in Aha's extra turn triggered by her ultimate, because she is going to be obviously, you know, activating a brand new Aha instance in that ultimate. The fixed amount of punchline taken into account increases to 40 when dealing elation damage. All allied targets ignore 20% of the target's defense. So let's break that down, right? Not only are you going to be gaining an extra Aha instance, and you are going to be gaining that punchline. It's going to go up to 40 right there, so that's also really good. That means more just damage overall in general for your Yao Guang, Sparksy, and SW9s if she's already in her God Mode gamer mode. But not only that, once you are going to be dealing the elation damage, which that's what they're going to be doing in the Aha instance, all 3 of them are going to be ignoring 20% of all the target's defense. So you're looking at a team wide for those 3 characters, 20% defense ignore, and that is incredible. So that is like just obviously the #1 priority you should be focusing on to vertically invest into the team. So yeah, it's crazy. We're not even starting out with a SW9s, we're starting with Yao Guang, and that is priority #1. Priority #2 actually goes back to SW9s, and what this is going to be doing is you want to be getting that E2. So once you enter that God Mode player state, all the buffs on this unit are extended by 1 turn, and it's incredible. All buffs, not only the buffs she possibly gains herself, but buffs that she gains from everybody else on the team. And when you are in that God Mode player state, for every 120 points of MMR, which should be very easy to achieve in a team that is going to be consisting of Sparksy and Yao Guang, SW9s is going to gain 1 extra turn while in the God Gamer mode and regains 1 use of her enhanced basic attack. So typically she would exit out of that state upon using 3 instances of her enhanced basic attack. But guess what? You're going to be gaining 1 extra turn, and you're going to be gaining 1 additional instance of the enhanced basic attack, which is incredible. Compounding onto the fact that it's going to increase the damage taken by enemies targets in her own zone that she activates upon entering the God Gamer state by 20%. And then when you leave the state, 20% of the hidden MMR that you currently had when you entered the God Mode state, you are going to retain. So it's going to allow ease of use upon using the ultimate right there. It's going to increase the damage dealt by 20%, and you're going to have another instance of being in the God Gamer state, which is just amazing. And you know, you can have even more instances because the cap is at 240, so you can have an additional 2 instances of all of that paired up with Yao Guang's E1. It's crazy. So moving on, next is going to be Sparksy, and you might be thinking, well, Sparksy is a DPS character. How exactly is she going to be helping out the team? Well, the main premise here is in E2 is that when the aha instance ends, Sparksy gains 1 extra turn and 2 thrill, and for every 1 thrill consumed, increases her own crit damage by 10%, lasting for 2 turns and staying up to 4 times. Yes, that is a damage dealing aspect for herself, but you have to keep in mind that upon the thrill and getting the extra turn, those are more skill points being used, and guess what? More skill points means more punchline, it means more MMR. So allow for quicker ease of use with getting into the god player state for SW9s. And you have to take into effect with E1 is that whenever an aha instance ends, it says when aha instance ends, it doesn't matter if it's Yao Guang's or just in general, you gain 5 punchlines. So let's look into a factor in which you use Yao Guang's ultimate, you get through that aha instance. Well, guess what? Once it ends, you gain 5 punchline. But also keep in mind, because I've had this happen to me quite a bit when farming, is that whenever the Yao Guang instance ends for the aha, the normal aha instance will activate. And so you're looking at 10 punchline right there, on top of the fact that all the damage you are doing with Yao Guang and Sparksy. And if your Silver Wolf 9s is in that god mode player state, well then guess what? That's even more damage you're doing. And then for every 1 punchline owned, increases all type res pen for all allies by 1.5, maxing up to 15. So completely incredible DPS ceiling capabilities. So next up, right, we have those 3 characters. Huawa is just here just to look pretty and cute. What is going to be the next instance that you want to be focusing and prioritizing? Well, that is going to be SW9's light cone, right? And I have to say here that in terms of Eidolons and compared to the light cones actually are a little less significant, as most of the DPS increase you are going to be seeing is going to be coming from the Eidolons themselves and not the light cones. So as a refresher, right, the Welcome to the Cosmic City SW9 signature light cone, you get a 18% speed increase. That's already incredible. Then the elation damage dealt ignores 20% of the target's defense. You pair that up along with like Yao Guang's E1, you're looking at 40% defense ignore with SW9's elation damage. It's incredible. When the wearer uses the ultimate on themselves, gains 20 punchline, you're looking at 20 hidden MMR right then and there. This effect can be triggered up 1 time and will reset after using basic attack 3 times. So the enhanced basic attack 3 times. Once you exit out, guess what, right? You can gain the additional punchline again once you use the ultimate on yourself. But the biggest aspect here is that the speed bonus, because you want to be reaching that 160 to get the 50% increase to elation damage. And for every 1 additional speed you increase, you're going to be gaining a boost to your elation damage. And then the second aspect of this is that the elation damage dealt by this character is going to ignore 20% of the target's defense. So you can see it's a snowballing effect, right? Very, very strong. Next up is going to be Sparksy's light cone. And I guess I'll put them here because while they are good in and of themselves, they're nowhere near comparison to the Eidolons there, right? So next up is going to be a Sparksy light cone. And why is that? Well, you're boosting her own crit damage. That's nice, right? But the biggest aspect here is when the wearer's on the field, for every 1 elation character on the team, increases the skill point upper limit by 1 up to a max increase of 3. So right now, currently, on my elation team that I use for fun, and I'm really enjoying it, is partially why I'm going for SW9's E2. But I have Sparksy and I have Yao Guang. Both of them, those are the only 2 elation characters. My skill point maxes out at 9, which is incredible. And for so with adding another character on there, it's going to go up to 10. So that's 10 instances to where I can further increase not only my punchline, but also the hidden MMR for SW9s. And then for every 1 skill point the wearer consumes, enables the elation damage dealt by this character, ignoring 5% of the target's defense, stacking up 4 times. Very good. And the bigger aspect here is that when you consume 4 or more skill points in the same turn, which is what Sparksy does really well, you're going to be increasing all allies' elation by 20%. That is stupid strong. Just boosting everybody's elation damage. Compound that with SW9 signature light cone, with Yao Guang's E1, you're looking at what? So that's 2 4. You're looking at a 60% increase to your elation damage ignoring 40% total of the enemy's defense. So it's just, like I said, it's a snowballing effect as to how you are going to be further increasing your overall damage. It's just crazy to even think about, and that possibility. Next up is going to be Yao Guang's light cone, and personally I find that a little crazy simply because of the fact that Yao Guang's light cone is really good and arguably one of the better supporting light cones in a while. So you're going to be having an increase of 18% to the speed, which is really good for Yao Guang. Now, when you enter combat or use your ultimate on an allied target, you are going to be gaining Great Fortune for 3 turns. And when the wearer holds Great Fortune, all allies' crit rate is going to be increased by 10%, crit damage is going to be increased by 30%, and her energy regeneration is going to increase, which is very nice because you want more ultimates to be able to get more aha instances in there and just, you know, compound that with everything else we've already gone over. You can see how quickly this team is going to be able to melt through content. But the big aspect here is that right here is the 10% increase to crit rate, 30% increase to crit damage. So not only does Sparksy really like this because she's also a DPS character, but SW9s is really gonna like this because it's gonna help make reaching that 100% crit rate much easier with the hidden MMR mechanics, so that all of your excess, you have more excess actually to go into the crit damage while also getting that 30% crit damage bonus. Now this is going to be active more so during combat, so you need to be able to go through your combat to understand exactly, get a rough estimate, like, okay, how frequently can I get this going, and looking at that, how much is my crit damage going to increase with SW9s, right? So I would say those are your main target priorities. E1 right here, E2, E2, and then, you know, just getting the light cones. Now, if you are a bigger whale, obviously go further, right? Just absolutely go ballistic. So there's that. But Huawa is here as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at our little ghostly fox friend. And I think the biggest aspect here is going to be her E1. And the reason why E1 is so good is that when she has divine provision, which is going to be very frequent with her, all allies' speed is going to be increased by 12%. So why this is so good is, A, you have a very fast SW9s who benefits tremendously for that, but you also have an extremely fast Yao Guang, which you really want. You want more instances of getting the extra aha instance to be able to do more damage just overall in general. And the light cone for Yao Guang, or for Huawa, let's go ahead and check this bad boy out. This light cone is decent, simply because of the fact that you're going to be further boosting her energy regeneration rate, which is very nice. Be able to boost her overall damage and, you know, provide a lot of healing. So that's nice, but getting the ultimate off more frequently with her is good, because you want to also further boost Yao Guang's ultimate so it happens more frequently. But yeah, this is honestly the best trajectory that you want to go. Actually, we'll do that. I'll probably put this right here. E1. So again, let's go back over this. E1, amazing. That is the biggest damage increase for cheap, just in general. Then you have E2 with both of these characters. It's a little more expensive, but you get a pretty sizable damage increase, mainly with SW9s in comparison to Sparksy, but Sparksy is still very good. Now, E1 for Huawa, because of the fact you get that speed increase, again, cheap in comparison to the light cones, because of the fact that also Huawa is getting given out for free. Then you have the light cones. So this is typically what I would be saying for players who want to further vertically invest into your SW9's Elation team.